What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So last year I made multiple six figures in profit, not just revenue, but in profit, selling my expertise and my information online. And in this video, I'm going to pull back the curtain. So I'm going to show you the three-step process we use with all of our clients. So whether or not you want to start selling your expertise and your information online, this video is helpful for you. But at the same time, if you're already selling your expertise, let's say you have a coaching or a consulting offer that you're already selling, but you just want to figure out how you can work perhaps less but earn more money, then this video is for you. So let's get going, guys. So let me just get back to the confess. So like I said, there are three phases that will we go over in this video. So I'm just going to unpack them all by all. And in the first one, we're going to go over how you can make more money, obviously. In the second one, I'm going to help you give back your time. And in the third one, we're going to work on more stability. So let's start with the first one. So in this first phase, guys, this first phase that we go with all of our clients, what we do is we focus on leads, clients, and cash. So this is specifically important for the people that are at this stage that, let me see, there we go, do not have consistent revenue. So this is roughly for our clients that are making anywhere between 3 to 5K per month. But it's very hacky. It's very inconsistent. So you might be at this stage. So whenever I encounter a client that is at this stage, the first thing we do is we always, let me remove this part so we can make some space. So the first part we always focus on is the offer. So if you've seen some of my recent content or some of my other YouTube content, I talk a lot about offers. Why? Because without a clear understanding who you help, what problem you solve, and how you deliver it, it's very hard to build an info business in 2026. So with the offer, it's usually like the ICP, like the target audience, the problem you solve, and a way of delivery. And the beauty here is, guys, that you don't have to get a fully dialed in offer yet. That comes way later. So in this first phase, what you want to do is, like I said, this is something that is very simple, like who you help, what problem you solve, and how you deliver it. This is what we call the offer pyramid. Why? Because you can see the shape, obviously, and they all work together, right? It's like a triangle, so they all need each other. But people often overcomplicate offers or a high-ticket offer, especially in the info space. And the simplest way I can give it to you: who you help, what problem you solve, and how you deliver it. So that's the first step, right, guys? So if you're in this phase where you're like, I don't have a consistent revenue yet, you want to start looking at your offer. By the way, if you need any help with that, in the description you'll find an application we've built. It's called Otto, which helps you spin up your offer in no time. So you can just check it out if you're interested in that. But in this video, guys, like I said, we're going to go over the whole system. So don't click away if you're still interested in seeing the whole system. So we tackled offer, right? You kind of understand now how that goes. So the other thing here is that when you have clarity on your offer, you're going to start pushing content, right? Because you can have the best offer in the world, but if no one knows you exist, it's very hard, right? So traffic is a result of putting content, right? Some people call it eyeballs, impressions. Like, we're very big on LinkedIn, but at the same time, we're also pushing YouTube right now. And the goal there is just to get attention, right? Because as long as I don't have the attention of people, it's very hard to start a sales conversation and stuff like that, right? So in this first phase, in the traffic phase or in the content phase, what you want to do is you want to keep things simple. So some people, they say like, oh, you have to post every day on LinkedIn to get clients, to get leads. I would say that's not needed anymore. So if you just focus on 3 to 4 posts per week, where one of them is a lead magnet. So let's say you have like an asset or a resource or anything that's valuable in your arsenal, and you can give it away on LinkedIn. The beauty of that post is that when you say something, you might have seen it, those lead magnet posts. I've talked a lot about them on my channel, but perhaps you've seen them on LinkedIn as well. You share a problem, you share a solution, and like, hey, if you want to get the full resource, toolkit, whatever, comment X and I send you this. So lead magnet is a perfect way to get traffic, right? In the last, I think 4 or 5 months, 40% of my lead magnet has gone viral, so more than 1,000 comments. So of course, this is a beautiful way just to get a lot of attention, right? So lead magnets. Then what you want to do is you want to have a case study post. Basically, just show that you're able to solve the problem you talk about, right? So with your offer, if you define that, with a case study or a proof post, you just want to show the audience that, like I said, you're not just book smart, but you've actually done the thing. And then the last part is what I call an authority piece of content, like authority content, where you basically mix some education with authority. So pure education content used to work on LinkedIn like 2022, right? Like just the how-to content, how to do X, Y, and Z. But anyone that has access to any GPT or LLM or Perplexity, whatnot, can figure out all this information on their own. However, you still want to have some value, and usually teaching people or learning people certain things is important. What the authority part here is, you want to say the things only you can say. So as you're an expert in some form of some kind, you've done work, whether it's with your own business or with the business of your clients or the projects you've done. And in that process, of course, you learn things, right? So that's the education you can give it away. But you also always want to like put it through a perspective of only things you can say. So for example, I've written thousands, perhaps 2,000, 3,000 LinkedIn posts. So in that process, I've learned a lot. So I can use it as a hook. So instead of someone just giving generic advice on how to write LinkedIn content that gets you inbound leads, I can put it in such a wrapper that I add something that only I can say. I can say something like, after writing 2,000 posts on LinkedIn and spending 5 years studying the platform, here are the 7 uncommon steps I would take if I would have started over today. Right? I still lead with education because I'm sharing 7 steps, but at the same time, I'm saying something only I can say because I've done the work, right? So if there's one lesson you can take away out of like the whole content game, is saying the things only you can say. So that's the beauty, right? So that's content. Again, we're staying high level here because we're breaking down the whole system. So let me remove this. So content, then where's the green? Content is done as well. And then last but not least, in this first phase, we want to talk about outreach. And I'm not saying, sorry, I'm not telling you or saying that you should cold DM people straight out of the get-go. Like, not really. Like 2026, one of my hypotheses is that cold DMs are slowly dying. Why? Because people getting bombarded in your inbox, right? I'm sure you have so many pitch labs and so many like messages in your inbox. What we do want to do is we want to, first of all, add the right people. So the right ICP. So in your first step, like I said, in your offer here, what you've done, you figured out, okay, who do you want to help? What problem you want to solve? And then, especially if you're beginning on LinkedIn, you don't have these people in your network. Let's say you're switching audiences or you're just building out a new business. Add these people. So go to the search bar on LinkedIn, type in founder or coach or whatever people you're looking for, and start adding these people to your network. Include a very simple message in your connection request to say like, hey, X, good to be connected. That's it. Because what happens, like when you actively start or like consistently add these people to your network, you can add up to 200 people a week. Let's say 50% of them accept your connection request. So every week you're adding 100 new people. So in a month time, that's 400 ICP fit people. And what happens, the beauty here is that if you have these people in your first grade audience, like they're connected to you on LinkedIn, the chances are high that they will see your content. And once they see your content, they can start engaging with it, they can start liking it, they might check out your profile. So that's the first part of the outreach, right? You want to add the right ICPs consistently. And the second thing is, and that's where the content comes into play, when you post your content and you get likes or comments, I don't know, I can't come up with an icon for that, but comments, and you get people checking out your profile, etc. What you do is you reach out to them with a very simple message. Hey, X, hey, first name, are you here? Are you here for the content, or is achieving X your prio? And then X relates, of course, to your main offer. So once you have clarity on your main offer, you know what problem you solve, you can include it in your message. So one of my previous messages, by the way, this is, guys, what we call a 50-50 message. It's super freaking simple. It's one of the easiest way to get started with warm outreach, because you're basically giving people two options. Are you here for the content only, or is solving X, Y, and Z one of your questions? So what I always did is like, hey, X, are you here for the content only, or is getting clients on LinkedIn one of your main prio? So if they say like, hey, I'm here for the content, because I know I talk about client acquisition and stuff like that on LinkedIn, I know there is some intent. Otherwise, I wouldn't be engaging with the content, right? Or when they say like, yeah, I'm getting clients is one of my main priorities right now, then I can just very simple just ask the next question, like, hey, how is it going right now? Like, what are the things you're working on? Like, do you perhaps need some help, right? All these things. So it's a perfect way of starting the conversation. I'm not pitch slapping. I'm not dropping my link, my booking link or my payment link straight away, but I'm just starting a conversation. It's a real human being. So, guys, this is, there we go. That's content. So that's literally the first phase. So if you're at this phase right now that you don't have consistent revenue, figure this out. Okay, is your offer clear enough? Are you pushing content consistently? And are you adding people to your network? So again, I like flywheels. I like drawings like this, because what it shows me, and hopefully you as well, is that all these aspects, oh, let me show this. All these aspects should like work together, right? Like if you just have offer and outreach, you would have this, right? You would have offer and outreach, but you're missing this pillar, right? You're missing a part of the structure. Like I said, like I'm a very visual person. Like you're missing a part of the structure, right? So in terms of like getting clients on LinkedIn, you need these three pillars. You need to have clarity on your offer. I'm not saying you need to have a fully dialed in offer. You need to spend 6 months dialing it in. Like a great offer is when you have directionally where you're going. And a very simple way is like, okay, who do you help? What problem do you solve? And how do you deliver it? That's that, right? The other thing is, okay, you want to have consistent outreach to new people, connecting these to your audience. And at the same time, you want to reach out to the people that are in your orbit, right? The people that engage with your content. Why? Because those people have seen your face, have seen your content, so you're not reaching out to cold people. So I know some of y'all might be like, oh shit, Jesse, I don't want to reach out to cold people, and like pitching them, you don't have to. On one hand, you connect with new people, and at the same time, you reach out to people that have engaged with your content. Super freaking simple. And then the last thing, like I said, you need to have content, right? Because without traffic, nothing really happens. And as you've learned right now, like content feeds into outreach, and outreach feeds into content, right? Because the more qualified people you add to your network, the higher the chance they see your content. The higher the chance they see your content, the more likes and the more engagement and the more profile views you get, and the more outreach you can do. So again, it becomes this flywheel. So you don't want to interrupt one by just stopping content or outreach. You want to have them both. So hopefully that makes sense. So guys, this is the first freaking step. So hopefully my drawings kind of make sense. Like as I'm drawing, I know some good ways to improve this for the next video. But now with the second phase, guys, where we want to, in the first phase, we talked about money, right? And in the second phase, what we want to do is we want to make sure that once you have consistent clients, and this is where the majority of our clients are, they are making money, they have revenue, like the revenue exists, but, and this is an important one, I am the bottleneck. So you might be watching this and you're like, okay, that's me. So you either like you're capped in your time or your energy, because it's not always the case that you can only be capped in your time, right? But if you're doing something like every single day or like many hours a week, at some point you might run into like an energy cap, right? Let's say you're always manually onboarding your clients. Well, in this phase, I'm going to show you that there are very simple ways to get you out of this, get you out of the business a little bit more, like allowing you to stop working as much in the business, but more on the business, right? Because this is a very, very legit problem with most of the people that we work with. So one of the first steps here, and I'm just going to list them all out and then we're going to talk about them one by one. The first part, prioritization. Like, you might be stuck at this point now that you're like, okay, I know I have a lot on my plate, but I don't know what to do first. I get that, right? So the other thing here is that you want to optimize your sales systems. Like I said, you have some revenue, but you're the bottleneck, right? So usually that's also a problem to do with sales. You want to improve, this is what I just mentioned, you want to improve delivery, so client delivery, because chances are that you're still doing the majority, if not all, of the delivery, right? And then last but not least, you want to start creating, and this is my favorite part basically of like this whole phase, creating assets, right? So with prioritization, what you want to do in this phase, you want to just look at things, you want to basically look at your calendar, right? And this might sound silly, but hear me out. Every time that our clients come to us and they're like, hey, I'm overwhelmed by this, or I'm overloaded by that, I have this on my plate and I want to do X, Y, and Z, I always ask them to look at their calendar, like, or at least figure out, okay, how are they spending their time? Where's the majority of their time spent? And if this time is spent on income producing activities, or usually just, yeah, big word, fluff bullshit, right? Because they're very busy, but sometimes they're just trying to be busy instead of zooming out and looking more from a perspective of a business owner. Because that's, I would say, from a mental perspective or from a mindset perspective, the shift you want to make when you're in this phase. So you're making some good revenue. So let's say you are consistently between you can't see what I'm writing, between 5K and 10K per month, right? So you're making relatively good money. Let's be honest, like making up to 10K is, I would say, more than enough you need in most countries in the world to just live a good lifestyle. But like I said, you are very much the bottleneck. So you might feel that you're in this treadmill. Like everything in the business still like depends on you. So prioritization is one. I can make a whole video on that. If you want to go more into detail how we help our clients prioritize, just drop a comment under this video and I will create that video in the next few weeks. But let's dive into like optimizing your sales systems, right? Because there are different ways of doing sales. Like some people that like calls. I personally always enjoyed doing DMs, but at the same time, there are also ways how to stay sales less but still make money. So I'll explain it in a second. So I'm not giving you here this is better than that. What's the most important here is that you figure something, you figure out a sales system that works for you, right? Some people just love doing calls. I always like doing DMs because it's more scalable. Or that's the model we currently run. We removed, I would say, massive sales processes, but we went to a marketing heavy business. So we love it. That's also why I'm creating a lot of new content on YouTube, just to get people get to know me more, show some of the things we've been doing. And if they then are interested in taking the next step, they can either check out the description under this video, they can send me a message on LinkedIn, and from there we'll just have a conversation and figure out if there is a way how we can benefit both from a partnership, right? So that's what I call sales. Like, sure, there is an element of sales because business without sales is hard to make revenue, right? But it's more of a nuance shift, right? So in this case, you want to just figure out, okay, where are you right now, and what's the business you want to build? So, like I said, this is something that I'm not going to go into detail here because this is just very much, how do you say that? Personal to everyone. But in this case, and this is where most of your time will come back, is where you start improving delivery. So an example that I mentioned earlier is, let's say you have a onboarding process. Well, I assume you have one if you're in this phase. In this onboarding phase, you want to make sure that new clients that come on board have the perfect or the most optimal experience with you, right? But perhaps there are a lot of things that you have to do manually. You have to set up the Calendly, or you have to add them to Slack. You have to do all these little bit of things, right? And even though you might be telling yourself like, oh, it's just one task, Jesse, or it's just once a week, or it's 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, I have to check this or that. Like, those are usually the things that will sap out your energy. It's like the expression, right? Like that by 1,000 cuts. Like if you're in this phase right now, you have revenue, like I said, but you're the bottleneck. And majority of the time will be because your focus might be scattered, right? So you have some onboarding, but it's usually just very scattered. So a very simple way, if you just figure out, okay, if you collect your payments through Stripe, you set up a simple Zapier that once the payment is in, someone gets into Slack. When someone is in Slack, or whatever tool you use, whether it is a school, Slack, or other communication tools, you can send up an automated message with one worksheet, WS, plus a Calendly link to book the onboarding meeting, right? So in this case, once the client paid, the rest of the funnel just runs, right? Whereas before you had to do this, you had to send that, you had to include that, and the client had to book a call, or even you didn't have even a Calendly thing set up. So you were like chatting back and forth, like, hey, how does Wednesday X, Y, and Z work for you, or this, blah, 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 right? And this is a very simple example. And if you want to learn more about how we improve delivery and remove our clients from just being busy to being more scalable, I can also create another video on that. Just drop a comment below and I will make that. So that's the whole onboarding process, guys. Or sorry, that's an example of improving delivery where I took onboarding as an example. And then last but not least, this is one of my favorite. And I created a lot of videos on this. Again, for now, I'm staying high level. If you want to go more into detail, I will drop some of the right videos in the comment sections. But in the first phase, the one that we talked about a few minutes ago, you have your high ticket offer, right? Which is usually, as the name gives it away, where you get the most money from, right? Like it's usually from like 2K to 10K per month, depends on the offer, right? But what you want to do here, you want to create fractional assets that are just spin-offs from the high ticket offer. So with the mid-ticket offer, this is usually, I will give you ranges in a second, and this one is free, if you can understand that. So this is low ticket and this is free. So with the high ticket offer, usually this is some done for you and there's a one-on-one aspect to it. Sometimes it's a done with you. Let's say you run a group coaching or you work more with your clients. Mid-ticket, oh, by the way, this is, let's say, anything up for 2K per month. Mid-ticket, I would say, is under 1K. So let's say we have to remove this from 1K plus per month. Let's say it's a retainer. Here in this case, guys, what you want to do is you want to usually just only work with them, but I would argue that that's still not the case. Done with you, something like that, right? Or and do it yourself. It's like a course, a template, like stuff they can do on their own. Some of your involvement might be needed. With low tickets, I would say it's always do it yourself, and especially with a free offer. Let's say lead magnets, what I talked about, like let's say 10 minutes ago, like the one that you will give away on LinkedIn. They're always a spin-off from the high ticket offer, right? Because it wouldn't make sense if you have a freebie on the front end that's unrelated with your high ticket offer. Because the beauty of these lead magnet posts on LinkedIn, like let's say you had a resource or a checklist on the front end that you give away for free, knowing that your clients normally, that let's say they used it before, so you know it's valuable. You know that when the moment you push that on LinkedIn, the people that raise their hands asking for this resource are potential buyers for your high ticket offer, right? And this is how all these things start to work together. So in this case, guys, what we want to do is like in phase 2, in the pursuit of getting your time back and removing you a little bit more out of the business, whether it's like in onboarding or delivery or in sales, you want to start creating these assets. So let me just remove this a little bit, put it there. And then now what we're gonna do, we're first gonna draw like an amazingly sharp line. There we go. Phase number 3. And this is where we want to create, like the previous drawing was not too good, but we want to create a little bit more predictability. Predictability, scalability, and big word, control. So this is perfect for the people that are now in this phase that growth feels random and unpredictable. So you might have good months followed up by bad months, and you don't know exactly what it is that's causing that, right? Like you have some wins here, you sign a few high ticket clients, you have a great month, you made, let's say, $12,000, and then the next month you're back at 2K only from retainers. So you're always trying to figure out, okay, how can I create more scalability and predictability in the business, right? Because in this phase, you might feel anxiety, you might feel stress of like, okay, I've got something going for me, but what if it all stops next month, right? So people churn, some people change, and it's like it's you're not out of the weeds yet. So in this phase where we also help a lot of our clients with, the first thing that we do is we identify constraints. And why is this important? Well, because I speak to a lot of our clients that are in this phase. Sometimes they just try to optimize the wrong thing. So we usually have a few things, right? We have traffic, we have sales, so traffic can also be like marketing, and then we have delivery, right? So again, it's a nice little triangle. So in this phase, if your growth feels random and unpredictable, it might be because one of them is capped. So you first have to want to figure out, okay, and the thought experiment I always do is like, okay, if I would 10x the traffic, would the business 10x? Yes or no? Or would I 10x the sales, like, or 10x the delivery, right? Of course, this is a thought experiment, but if, let's say, you would say, okay, I'm going to 10x the traffic, right? I'm going to go from 100,000 impressions per month to 1 million. Would that 10x the business? If the answer is no, then that's currently not the bottleneck, right? Because it's just the law of diminishing return. But if you say like, okay, currently if I increase something in my sales process 10% or 10 times, the business will 10x in terms of revenue or income, then most likely that is the bottleneck. And the same with delivery, right? If you can get 10 times more case studies, or you have a 10 times better onboarding process, would that increase the business? Perhaps not 10x, but let's say a 5x, right? So identifying constraints, guys, here is super freaking important. And again, this is some high level or some detailed stuff. Again, if you want to have a full video on that, just drop it in the comment section below and I will make it. And then the other part here is where we want to just, what I call is like focus versus killing. So as we have identified constraints there, the next thing you can do is killing. So in business, it usually just, okay, I think this is, we start like this. So in the beginning, you kind of go wide, right? You just test a bunch of things, and then you have some traction, you have some things that work, so you kill out a few things, because, and then you go narrow again. So first you test a lot, and then you go narrow again. Like if you find a winner, let's say in terms of your content, okay, remove the rest and go down on that. For example, with lead magnets, if you test 10 lead magnets, 3 of them work, discard 7 and just make variations of the 3 winners. The same with a client, right? Let's say you have 5 different clients, 5 different profiles. 4 of them are just pain in the ass to work with. 1 of them just gets great result and you like working with them. Okay, let's get more of them and remove the rest, right? But that's the process that we want to do here. Again, this is some pretty like high level stuff, but this is where if you are in this process where growth feels random and unpredictable, usually you just want to focus and kill. Like one of the things that I've learned the most is that usually that elimination first. So eliminate the things that are currently not working, because what it does, it creates space. It creates space either in your calendar or in your mind to think about new things. So whether you might be in this position like, okay, growth feels random and unpredictable, like I said here, your default might be, okay, let's add more things, let's add more complexity. Well, I can tell you from my own personal experience and being in the game for like many years now, eliminate first, because that elimination process will just, like I said, it creates space to think, to zoom out, to take a step back. And usually when you're in this phase, you don't have to be in the business day to day all the time, right? You have some room just to take a day out of the business and work on the business. And that usually comes after you can eliminate things to create some space. And then also, and this is the last part here, guys, this is not coming from there. The last part in this third phase is where you can start building operating systems. So yeah, I think that's confusing. So let me just write it out. Operating systems. I internally always call this OS, but it's like operating system, and this is operating systems, plural. So in this case, what you can think about, okay, content system. Like for me, content creation is so simple. Like I have a system for it. I have a system for my ideation. I have a system for my creation. So it just becomes a supply chain. I have a moment in the week where I sit down to prep my ideas. There is a moment in the week that I write the content, I ship it, and then it's set and forget. So once a week, all my content is going out, whether it's on LinkedIn or email. The same thing that I have a system for, I can create these YouTube videos, then I can put it into a Claude workflow, and the posts get churned out based on this video, in this transcript, right? So in this phase, if you're in this phase, you want to think about building systems for that, right? Like you're a business owner, not a full-time content creator. So you want to think about, okay, marketing is just a task on your to-do list. It's just a task on your calendar, right? And the same with sales. Whether perhaps you're still taking sales calls or you do sales through DMs, like you want to build systems for that so you're not no longer the bottleneck. The same with delivery. Are you like always available for your clients, or are you having specific office hours or specific like time that they can chat with you? Like there are different ways to build these operating systems. And the other thing here in terms of content is like as you're living this thing, as you're building this info business to 10, 20, 30K plus per month, you get a lot of inspiration, right? So you also want to have a system for your inspiration. So this might be a little bit out of scope here, but I just want to make sure that I share it with you. So again, I can create a full video on building better operating systems. Again, if you need that, check out the description below, or drop a comment and I create that video. It's not being done yet. But yeah, guys, this is roughly it. Like I know I went quite deep, but what we did here is first phase is we make more money. We focus on leads, cash, and clients. In the second phase, if you're there, we take your time back. And then in the third phase, we build more stability. I understand a flat line in business doesn't really happen. It's usually like this, but at least you don't go back to zero, because in these phases, you might go back to zero every 3 weeks, every month. And in the third phase, you're not going back to zero anymore, right? You have consistency, or at least some form of predictability in the business, but still it feels very random, very unpredictable. So hopefully, guys, this has been helpful for you. If you need any details on how to start or grow your info business and scale it to like 10, 20, even 30K per month using LinkedIn and email, just check out the description. Gets you to a page with some information, a different video. And if that sounds like anything that can help you grow your business, just apply on the page. And with that being said, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.